Welcome to Butterfly, the Becoming. Here, we honor the human experience, the questions, the clarity, and the quiet unfolding of becoming. You're invited to arrive as you are. If you have ever laid in bed at night and felt like something inside you was still awake while the rest of the world slept, then you already know the quiet place I am speaking from. It is not a dramatic feeling, and it does not arrive with urgency. It is more like a gentle awareness that something within you is alert and watching, even while your life continues moving forward as it always has. You can be surrounded by responsibilities, routines, and people who believe they know you well, and still sense that a deeper part of you is observing everything from a distance you cannot quite explain. Most of us entered this world without understanding where we were, why we were here, or what would eventually be asked of us. And life began shaping us before we had the ability to question any part of it. There was no moment where someone sat us down and explained what it means to be human, what it means to carry memories, expectations, disappointments, and hope inside one body. We were placed into a reality that was already unfolding, into families that had history long before our arrival, into environments that had rules we did not create, and into emotional patterns we could feel long before we could name them. A name was given to you before you understood language, and gradually you learned what expressions on other people's faces meant, what brought approval, and what caused concern. You adjusted to those signals instinctively because survival depended on connections, and connections depended on learning how to be acceptable to the people you needed. Long before there was a clear sense of who you were, there was already an understanding of who you needed to appear to be. Most lives begin this way, shaped not by deliberate choice, but by adapting to what was already present. Yet, beneath that version, people carry a quiet pressure that does not disappear simply because life becomes functional. It can surface in moments when you are alone and not performing any role for anyone, when the noise of the day fades and something unspoken rises into awareness. You may not even know what it is asking for. You only know that it is there. Even when life looks stable from the outside, there can remain a subtle distance from it, as if you are participating and observing at the same time. You fulfill responsibilities, you show up for people, you continue moving forward. And still, there are moments when you wonder whether you are fully inside your life or carefully maintaining it. The world provides endless instructions about how life should be lived and what success is supposed to look like. Yet, it offers very little guidance about how to understand the experience of being alive in the first place. Because of that absence, meaning often has to be assembled privately, piece by piece, through reflections that no one else sees. Beliefs are absorbed before there is language to question them. Stories are repeated until they become truth. Expectations settled quietly into the structure of identity until they begin directing your choices without your awareness. Over time, it becomes possible to live according to those inherited structures while sensing that something essential has not been addressed. Your life may appear complete and even admired by others, yet internally there can remain an unanswered question that does not come from dissatisfaction, but from a deeper need to understand what this existence is actually for. Sometimes that contrast becomes clearer in the presence of the natural world. A bird does not struggle to justify its existence before it takes flight. A dog does not hesitate to follow its curiosity through a park. Trees do not question whether they deserve to reach towards the light. There is a simplicity in that way of being that reveals how much effort human life often requires. Many people spend years searching for something they cannot easily name. They are not only looking for solutions to problems, they are searching for a sense that the life they are living genuinely belongs to them and is not simply a continuation of expectations they never chose. Books are read, experiences are gathered, and reflections accumulate in the hope that something will finally align. And yet, there can remain a space between what is understood intellectually and what something deeper continues to reach towards. That space, the in-between space, is not emptiness. It is awareness waiting to be acknowledged. At one point in my life, I heard someone say that understanding happiness requires thinking about death, and the idea initially felt uncomfortable. Yet, imagining the end of a life has a way of clarifying what is essential by removing everything that is not. Concerns that once dominated your attention begin to lose their weight. Expectations that once felt permanent begin to loosen. What remains is not dramatic revelation, but a quiet recognition of what truly matters when performance is no longer necessary. There is a growing sense that many people are longing for that kind of clarity, not because they want certainty, but because they want to feel fully present in their own lives instead of standing slightly outside themselves. The world does not encourage this kind of reflection because it is structured around movement and productivity. It is easier to keep going than to pause long enough to notice what has been carried for years without examination. Yet, when movement slows, even briefly, certain truths become visible. Some beliefs feel heavier than they once did. Some roles feel more obligation than expression of who you are. Some narratives no longer hold the meaning that once seemed to carry. This is not crisis. It is a threshold. Some questions are not meant to be answered quickly because they are not problems to solve, but invites to understand yourself more honestly. Asking them does not mean you are lost. It means you are finally paying attention. Perhaps the real shift is not about finding a final explanation for life, but about recognizing the difference between surviving your life and inhabiting it. That shift happens quietly through moments of honesty that no one else may ever see, through the willingness to acknowledge what feels true, even when it cannot be explained. This is where something new begins, not in certainty, not in resolution, in readiness. And maybe the search for truth does not come from confusion at all. Maybe it comes from the moment you finally willing to live without pretending that you do not already feel it. That is the power of your becoming.